welcome back. The schedules this weekend has made it so that it's basically wall-to-wall hockey. I haven't been able to do much else. So I've got two boards here, one for a news video and then one for another video later tonight after I've done the review for today. So all 7 games are going to be in one review. So if you're wondering where the matinee review is, well, I'll spread out throughout the day. So Sam Bennett has been suspended 3 games for a head hit on Cedric Paquette. I agree. There should have been a penalty called on the play. And I do wonder, so what happens with the officials who are in charge of the game when they miss this? What kind of anything takes place in that case? Because there should be something, right? Like that was not a great one. And of course, Bennett played a huge role in that game. And if you take him out of that game, who knows what might have happened. So he should have had 5 in a game, didn't. And so here we are. Paquette's out for the next 3 games for Florida, which means he doesn't get to play when the Calgary Flames come in. And so I've already heard on the Calgary broadcast that was one they were actually looking forward to, was Bennett against the Flames. So can't have nice things. Good story from yesterday, and we need good stories at this time of year and just in general. The Vancouver Canucks and the Seattle Kraken gave $10,000 to the med school student who saved the life of trainer Brian Red Hamilton. So what happened was the first time the Canucks were in Seattle, she noticed a mole on his neck. And she said, that's cancerous. She knows melanoma. So she put on her phone that it was cancer, and she showed her phone on the glass. He saw that. He acknowledged it, but he didn't really, interact with her, because that would throw you off, right? If somebody just randomly said, hey, you have skin cancer, you're going to kind of react with what? So he went to the doctor. The doctor immediately removed it and said, yes, it's cancerous. And if you'd come to see me in 4 or 5 years' time, we would have had a much different outcome. So he is crediting her with saving his life. So they had the Canucks tweeted out yesterday that they were looking for, actually it was 2 days ago, they were looking for. And so they tracked her down. They put them together. They had a picture of them together. It's a great story. The Vancouver Canucks and Seattle Kraken have jointly given $10,000 to her education. So she was in tears yesterday when that was announced during the game. And I think it's a nice story. Now, yes, if the Canucks and Seattle wanted to, they could give her $5-6 million. But the reality is that 10 grand, they didn't have to give to her. They could have just said, look, isn't this a great story? Thanks. Thumbs up, and left it at that. So I think it's nice that they're giving 10 grand to help her out. I assume it's not the Canucks in Canadian dollars and Seattle in American dollars, though. But all kidding aside, it's a nice story. So I'm glad there are nice stories out there. And the hockey world's been pretty united about how great it is to see that story. So I'm wearing Seattle because, again, they get involved in this. Makes it really hard to have that rivalry between the two cities, too. So, nice story there. St. Louis Blues today have put James Neal on waivers. Likely putting him on the taxi squad. I don't think anybody picks Neal up. Although, you have the qualifier that right now, with so many teams missing so many players, what would stop a Montreal from saying, we need forwards right now and picking up James Neal, unless they feel like in time for their next game they're going to get enough guys back that they wouldn't want James Neal. So Neal's on waivers right now. We'll see if anybody picks him up. His contract is not cumbersome or anything like that, so we'll see what happens. But for Neal, it has not worked out very well in St. Louis, winding down his career and whatnot. But we'll see if anybody takes him on waivers. Because right now, it kind of throws me too when I see players on waivers with so many players on the protocol lists. I'm kind of surprised that anybody's getting waived right now. Interesting note out of last night's Winter Classic game, which was the coldest Winter Classic ever. I don't think it's the coldest outdoor game. Wasn't the Edmonton-Montreal game, wasn't that a Heritage game? Technically not a Winter Classic. I think that was just a Heritage game. Where I think it was colder. That was a cold game. But yeah, so Talbot was out after the second period. And of course, the belief was, well, they put a Kakinen in there because they're down 6-2. Actually, Dean Evison saying that it was a lower body injury that took Talbot out of the game. And that there was no way that he could have talked Talbot into not playing in the third period unless he wasn't able to go. So that's why Kakinen was in the third period, where Minnesota got a little bit of traction and turned things around a bit, but not quite enough. So Yeah, we'll see how things go for Minnesota from here. I know that they've suddenly become a very popular target for fans to say, well, they're going to fall out. But yeah, from week to week, that's how things change. Things change very, very quickly. It's an 82 game schedule. We're around 30 games into it for everybody. There's still a lot of time left. The 3 stars of the month around the National Hockey League were announced today. Austin Matthews, first star. In 7 games, he had 10 goals. So that's how well Matthews can play when he's on. It's just incredible to watch. Max Pacioretty was the second star in 12 games for Vegas, 10 goals, 6 assists, 16 points. This is what Vegas misses. I think Vegas missed it today in the game against Winnipeg, as well as, of course, Stone being out too. But Pacioretty, those 10 goals in 12 games, he was fantastic. So for Vegas going without him for an extended period, that is going to hurt their attack. They're going to need more scoring depth on a more regular basis. And just, I don't know, Pacioretty just seemed to give them a lot of momentum when he came back. We'll see with him out for an indefinite period how things work out. Thatcher Demko, the third star of the month. He goes 7-1 on the month with a .946 save percentage. Really, really good month for Demko and for the Canucks. January is a much bigger test. So the other board that I have set up to talk about after I do the review tonight is on the Canucks, on the winning streak that they've been on their undefeated regulation streak they've been on, and the upcoming month, and how that could very well define whether or not they're a playoff team at the end of the year. I think by the end of January we will know, are they a playoff team? Because if they end up coming out of January with a good record, they're a playoff team. One note too from today's news and happenings, Montreal's decided there won't be any happenings for a while. They are shutting everything down until the 6th, so they don't want to have to be in a position where there's any further cases or anything. They don't want to end up with anybody else on the list. A lot of players on the list, on top of injuries that have been taking place as well. So Montreal, who had to play with 10 forwards and 5 defensemen for a lot of that game against Florida yesterday because they had 11 forwards, 5 defensemen, but Paquette leaves the game after the hit from Bennett, comes back, and then he left again. So they don't want to end up in a situation where there's more players you don't want to end up with like Patrick Waugh having to come out and play forward for you out of retirement because you just don't have anybody. And you're like, come on, Patrick, we need somebody. So Montreal's pausing all activities until January 6th. Then, of course, the question becomes, do they have a hard time ramping up, or is that going to be just fine? So for Montreal, it has been a tough go. It has been a really nightmarish season. What they're going through reminds me of what Vancouver went through last year, where Vancouver had a big outbreak, and then they ended up playing, wasn't it 18 games in 31 days? It was crazy. And so for Montreal, who's had, I think it's 8 games postponed so far, there are going to be some teams that play really tough schedules from here. There are going to be teams that have a ridiculous amount of games in hand on others. I'm looking at you, Colorado, and we'll see what they do with all those games in hand, because you have to win them. You have to win them, and those schedules are going to be tough. A lot of 3 games in 4 nights is my guess, but they have yet to update the schedule. I've heard that it'll probably be a couple of weeks, maybe a week and a half before they update the schedule. They want to see how many teams come through this. There's also talk about how teams that have come through the protocol nightmare, where most of the team has been on the protocol list and tested positive, they now view themselves as, okay, we've gone through this, now we're good to go for the rest of the season. They're not overly concerned. So it is tough for teams going through it. For those who already have, feeling a little confident and a little more ready for the rest of the season. But it is an evolving situation, so we'll see what happens from here. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. I hope everybody's having a good 2022. For me, like I said, it's just been watching hockey all day yesterday, watching hockey all day today, and we'll see how the third period turns out between Calgary and Chicago, and after that, I'll be here doing the review for all you fine people out there in internet land. So thank you guys so much for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I will talk to you again soon.